This podcast is presented by Win City Sports.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Cedric's Combat Corner. I am your host, Cedric Ben. Today on the Triple C's podcast, we'll be going over the tough junior middleweight clash from last Saturday. Two top 10, 154-pound contenders, Terrell Gausha and Erickson Lubin. So the four topics will be, I'm going to start off with a quick post-fight analysis, give you my scorecard. The second thing will be my individual analysis of each fighter. The third thing will be what the future holds for each fighter. And the fourth topic will be the training focus of the week. This week's focus will be how to work on counterpunching, different ways to work on improving your counterpunching skills. Okay, a quick brief history about each fighter, starting with the challenger Terrell Gausha. Gausha represented the USA at the 2012 Olympics, where he actually won a match at the Olympics. And he had a pretty good amateur career. He has wins over current champions Caleb Plant and Jesse Hart. As a professional, his record is 21 wins and 2 losses with 10 KOs. So 10 knockouts. So he's not known as a power puncher, more as a technical boxer. His biggest fight so far came against Irislandi Lara, the Cuban sensation who many believe beat Canelo in their match. And he had a draw versus Austin Trout. Those were his two biggest matches there. And then this step-up fight with Erickson Lubin. Now for the champion, not the champion, I apologize. The favorite in this fight, Erickson Lubin. He was also a good amateur. He decided not to go to the Olympics and start his pro career early. And he currently has a record of 23 wins with 1 loss with 16 knockouts. So he's definitely known as a power puncher with some technical skills in there too. And now for the actual match. It was pretty clear who won. Erickson Lubin made it very clear on the scorecards. I scored it 117 to 111 for Lubinson. I only gave Gausha round number 7, number 10, and number 11. Now here's the tricky thing about Terrell Gausha. He is a very good boxer, very good technical boxer, but he just doesn't show it. Now hearing that, you might think to yourself, well, that doesn't really make sense. Why would he not show his skills? That's what he's there to do in the ring, is to show his skills. So why would he not show it? What I mean is, Terrell Gausha is more of a defensive-oriented boxer, where he's more focused on not getting hit more than making sure that he hits you. Because again, when you take a step back and look at his amateur career, he qualified for the Olympics and actually won a match. You don't qualify for the Olympics and win a match by accident. You don't beat top level guys like Caleb Plant and Jesse Hart by accident. So he does have skills, but because he's more defensive minded, he doesn't put his offensive skills on display as much. Especially when your main defense is just simply keeping your hands up and just staying stiff like a heavy bag. There was a little bit of head movement and a little bit of lateral movement, but very little. Gausha's main defense is just simply keeping his hands up and, just being a heavy bag. He was blocking mostly everything, but you gotta bring your defense, you gotta have a variety to your defense. That's the difference between Floyd. That's why some fighters are actually boring to fight, but I personally don't find Floyd boring to fight because he switches up his defense. Sometimes he'll give you the Philly shell. I just call it the Floyd defense, because he's the best at doing it. Anyways, they call it the Philly shell. Then he'll put his hands up for a little bit, and then he'll use a little bit of lateral movement, and then sometimes he'll just stay in the pocket and use effective defense off of counterpunching off of whatever you're doing. So he switches it up. So Gausha, and again, Gausha is a 2012 Olympian. You don't get there by accident. So I believe he does have the skills, even the defensive skills, to switch it up, to make it a little bit more exciting. Because that's how you can make your defense exciting. Instead of just standing there stiff as a board with your hands up like a heavy bag, switch it up. If you make the person miss, that is actually exciting to watch. Like, obviously Mayweather was great at that. Canelo has developed to be a great making the person miss defensive boxer. And it just looks better to the judges as opposed to, again, just standing stiff as a board. Erickson Lubin was doing his best to bring the fight. He was coming forward for 80% of the fight. But again, it's hard to open up on your opponent if your opponent refuses to open up on you. When I say open up, I mean, engage and throw more punches. It's hard for you to counterpunch if the person's not even throwing anything to begin with. So the only negative thing, or I should say, instead of using the word negative, I should say constructive criticism, I should say, of Lubin, is that it kind of looks like he lost his focus in the second half of the fight. Again, he didn't get beat up or nothing like that. In the seventh round, at the end of the round, he got caught with, they were in a little flurry of punches, and Gausha caught Lubin with a nice right hand and shook him for a second. He was visibly shook. His legs shook. He still finished the round, but I think that was just that punch was caused from Lubin. He just looked like he was kind of slacking off with his sharp defense, and just kind of slacking off with his sharp defense, and that's how he got caught. So that was the seventh round. No, I apologize. The seventh round, I gave the seventh round to Gausha because he was simply changed up his pace and was coming forward. The knockdown happened in round 10. Sorry, but I did give Gausha round 7 because I just felt finally he decided to step it up and was actually backing Lubin up during that round. And then round 10 is when at the end of the round when Gausha caught Lubin with that right hand and had him shook. It was at the end of the round. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if it was early in that round. But that was that. Again, Gausha took advantage. He didn't really take full advantage of Lubin being hurt. He tried to come out aggressively in the 10th round, but Lubin got back his senses. And even I was kind of surprised with Gausha. Like even after usually a skilled fighter, when they hurt their opponent, they usually, even when they come to finish their opponent off, they still come with sharp punches. When Gausha hurt Lubin and came after him, the punches that he was throwing were very sloppy. Like I don't even think any of them landed. Lubin kept his hands up and blocked most of them. There might have been a left hook that kind of snuck in there, but I'm very surprised that the former Olympian wasn't able to land some more cleaner punches on his hurt opponent. That kind of shocked me, surprised me. So yeah, I gave Gausha 10 and 11, and then Lubin closed out the 12th round. He finished strong. So he got himself back together and finished the fight strong. And like I said, I scored it 117 to 111 for Lubin. Now, just to continue a little bit with my individual analysis of each fighter, with Terrell Gausha, what I would highly suggest to him is just to work on a variety of defenses. I don't have to say to work on your defense because his defense was on point. His defense was good. He was never visibly hurt. In the 12th round, Lubin caught him with a nice right hook. He caught him with a nice right hook. He didn't visibly show that he was hurt or anything like that, but on the replay you could see that it was pretty hard. But other than that, there was no other significant punches that I saw land. They were punches being landed. That's why he did lose most of the rounds, but nothing that nothing that made you stand out. And even with his counter punching, most of the time, Gausha was only counter punching one punch at a time. They were landing though. That's the thing. Anytime that he would randomly counter punch, it was a clean, crisp punch, whether it was to the chin or to the body. They landed. They just weren't enough. So my number one suggestion to Terrell Gausha would be to just work on a variety of defenses. The number one thing would be work on making the person miss completely. Because that's the other thing. As a judge, remember, the judges sit on each side of the ring. So if your back is facing one of the judges and your opponent throws a punch, to the angle that the judge is sitting at, it might look like the punch landed, even though it didn't. So if you just make the person miss completely, then there's no question that you made a miss. So mixing up the defense and the counter punching has to be more than one. Not all the time, because again, his counter punching was very clean, and it was very clear that he was landing. But it just can't be one punch all the time. Now, as far as for Erickson Lubin, one thing I would try to have him working on is just staying focused later on in the fight. Now, you might wonder how you'd stay focused when that's more of a mental thing, but there's still a few physical drills that you could do to help with that. For example, probably closer to the end of your workout when you're tired, do things like working on your defense. For example, after you come from a long run, come back from a long run, all defense right away, shadow boxing only your defense, not even throwing any punches, just shadow boxing your defense, just to help you have that muscle memory even when you're tired. When you're on the bag, hitting the bag, depending how many rounds you do, but this should be something that you do all the time. But again, specifically when you feel yourself getting a little bit tired, really emphasize your defense while you're hitting the bag. As soon as you're done, there should be some type of defensive move that you do. So it's just automatic. It's automatic even when you're tired. Your body still has that muscle memory of defending yourself, not leaving yourself open. Or for any coaches out there listening, after your boxer is done sparring, immediately after they're done sparring, do some pad work, but defensive pad work, where the main goal is blocking, deflecting, slipping, ducking under, the defensive things. So basically, you're using muscle memory exercises, or I like to say movement memory exercises, to help you able to stay focused. Meaning, if you get tired or hurt, hopefully those two things don't happen. But if one of those two things happen, you still have that, you still have that computer in your head that knows what to do. Because those are only two times that he looked bad since I've been watching his career. The one time when he got caught in that first round from Charlo, and then in this fight he looked good the whole time until the 10th round, when he kind of around the 7th, 8th, 9th round, he was kind of slacking off a little bit. And that's when he got caught slipping in that 10th round. So just little things like that at the top level, those little mistakes like that are the ones that, cost you the fight. So you got to be careful. Now, for what the future holds for both of these boxers, Terrell Gausha, this guy, he's going to have a tough time finding big money fights for two reasons. According to the crowd, he's technically he would be considered a boring fighter. Plus, he's good. Those are a dangerous combination, a bad combination for financial gain in the sport of boxing, because good opponents are avoiding you because they'll have the excuse that you don't bring a draw, so you're not going to sell a lot of tickets. Nobody's selling tickets right now. Nobody's going anywhere. But even on TV, nobody's gonna want to watch you fight because of your style, and you're good. So that's a dangerous combination to have. So Gausha, and again, I explained with Mayweather, it kind of sounds different, saying that, telling a defensive fighter not to be defensive because he's too boring, but everyone, like me, praises Mayweather. The difference is having a variety of defenses, not just simply having your hands up and being the stiff, heavy bag defense, which is effective, but not effective for your financial gain in this sport. He's still a top 10 guy and still dangerous for anybody else coming out there. So you guys still have to be careful. But he just needs to open up a little bit more so his bank account could fill up a little bit more for his career. Mr. Lubin definitely has a bright future. He'll be taking on, hopefully, the winner of Charlo versus, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's the Charlo Rosario match or the other brother, Charlo versus Derevyanchenko, but either or, all four of them, I was about to say all two, all four of those opponents are good competitive fights for Erickson Lubin. So the future looks bright at the 154-pound division. Boxing looked good overall from the lower weight classes to obviously all the killers at 147, 154. And yeah, man, boxing's looking good right now. Boxing's looking good. Okay, now for the training focus of the week. How to improve your counterpunching skills. So I'll give you guys three specific drills you can work on to help improve your counterpunching skills. Starting with shadow boxing. Shadow box at regular speed. You're gonna do 2 defensive moves and then counterpunch with power. So it's all shadow boxing, you're not hitting anything yet. So just shadow box at regular speed, have your feet moving. 2 powerful defensive moves, whether it's slip, or slip duck under, or ducking under twice, or 2 blocks. 2 hard defensive moves, like visualize your opponent really throwing hard at you, and then counterpunch with 3 other punches. So regular shadow boxing, regular shadow boxing, 2 hard defensive moves, and then power counterpunching back. And the second and third one is basically the same thing, but on the heavy bag and on pads. So in front of the heavy bag, you can either throw some very light punches, like light enough so that the bag is barely moving, or not even moving at all, but you're still, and at the same time, still technically sound, not just flinging your arms, like you still have your feet going too. So some very light punches, again, 2 hard defensive moves, and then a power counterpunching back. Where there's 2 slips, 2 duck unders. You know, most people just work on the blocking. It's hard working on making a person miss. You got to do the movements over and over again for them to feel comfortable when you're actually doing them, just sparring before the ring. So anyways, in front of that heavy bag, some light punches, the bag is barely moving, 2 hard defensive moves, and then counterpunch with power punches on the bag. And then the last one, with your coach. This is a little bit more advanced. This is probably something you can only do with your coach if you guys have been working together for a while on pads and you know each other's rhythm, you know how to go faster and slower. All the boxers out there know what I'm talking about. You just know, you and your coach, if you've been doing pads for a while, you almost don't even have to speak to each other because you just know just by the movement what the other person wants to do. Anyways, how you're gonna do this on pads is just barely throwing some light punches on the pads. Your coach will yell out again 2 hard defensive moves, whether it's 2 slips or 2 duck unders or slip duck under, or the blocking. I like working on the blocking with the hand pads too. And then again, counterpunch with at least 3 power punches. So regular pop, just at that speed there. 2 hard defensive moves, as if someone's throwing power punches at you, and then you counterpunch with 2 power punches after that. So there you have it. Those are your 3 ways to help improve your counterpunching skills. Thank you very much for listening. Much love, much respect. Hit me up on any social media at Cedric Sports, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, all of that. Yeah. All right, I'm out. Peace. Shout out to Win City Sports.
1, 2, 3, smack that thumbs up for this video. Smack it, baby!